Well, it's shameful to see the Labor government planning to ram through legislation next week while we're all here for the budget that will absolutely gut environmental protection. Last time we were in this building and Parliament was sitting, the Labor Party dumped plans to improve environmental protection, and next week they're going to gut the laws that already exist, implementing Dutton Liberal policy, almost carbon copy, it seems. What this shows is that Labor cannot be trusted to do the right thing when it comes to the environment. Gutting environmental laws, stopping community from being able to raise concerns about what's going on in their local environment, and ignoring the scientific advice is absolutely shameful. Our environment is in crisis. We have so many of our native species and wildlife facing extinction. Our forests are being logged. Our waterways are being trashed. We need more support for environmental protection, not less. And what this rushed legislation will do is enable big corporations to get their way and to keep destroying and trashing the environment. We know that the genesis of this has been the toxic rotting salmon industry in Tasmania. Let's not forget that in recent weeks, rotting salmon has been washing up on the shores in bays and beaches in Tasmania. Locals have been having to deal with the rotting flesh of salmon daily. What this rushed legislation will do is let those big foreign salmon corporations off the hook, ignoring the wills and the concerns of the local community in Tasmania, and allow these big foreign companies to keep farming this toxic salmon and sludge. But the laws look as though they're going to do more than just that, gutting the laws to allow big corporations to steamroll communities, to steamroll government, and to bulldoze the environment, cutting out community concern and ignoring the scientists. This move from Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is an attack on the environment. It's anti-science and anti-community. I am staggered that on the eve of an election, the Labor Party would ram through legislation that Mr. Dutton and the Liberal Party have called for, have drafted, have wanted, that trashes the environment, does the bidding of the big corporations, the fossil fuel companies, the loggers, and the big salmon companies, does the bidding of the corporations at the cost of our wildlife and environment. I mean, it beggars belief that the Labor Party is so craven to industry pressure that they're willing to introduce Liberal Party policy on the eve of an election. Well, we will do everything we can to stop this. We will be back here in this place next week, and the Greens will do whatever it takes to stop this legislation and to make sure every Australian knows that the Labor Party cannot be trusted when it comes to the environment, when it comes to listening to community, and when it comes to listening to the science.
Have you had a chance to see the legislation? What efforts have you made to try and get it?
No, we have not seen copies of the legislation at this stage. Neither have environment organisations or the community. I don't know. You'd have to ask the government whether they've let their mates in the fossil fuel industry and the big salmon corporations see the legislation. But what we do know on reports is that it is very similar, if not identical, to legislation that has already been tabled in the Parliament by the Liberal Party, by Peter Dutton's side, by Peter Dutton's coalition that wants to destroy environmental protection, weaken legislation, weaken the regulations, and all in the name of delivering for the big corporations and the lobby groups. But let me be clear, the government should release that legislation today for everybody to see so that we can get across it, so that the community can see it. And I call on the Environment Minister today and the Prime Minister, release the legislation today so that the community, the scientists and the Parliament can see what it is that you really are trying to do. Rushing through legislation that tears up environmental laws, guts environmental regulations, and will allow more destruction and more pollution.
I mean, even if it is released today, if it is their intention to pass it next week, there's not going to be time for an inquiry. What risk does that pose potentially when that laws are in operation, potentially for there to be problems and then legal challenges for decisions made?
I think this is opening up both Australia's environment and our wildlife for an onslaught. The legal ramifications will be complicated. We don't know what legal challenges may wait as a result of this legislation being rammed through. But this is not how you make laws. This is not how you make laws in this country. Ramming through legislation within a very limited number of hours of Parliament in budget week, unless your desire is to hide what you're doing from public view and public criticism. And if you wanted to rush through bad laws, you'd do it under the cover of a rushed budget on the eve of an election. That's what you do, and that's what's going on.
Do you think the major parties are trying to almost take away each other's major policies? Like, I mean, this whole salmon industry discussion is very much a Liberal talking point now for Labor to be sort of saying, suggesting something that would benefit that. Do you think that it's really just to take the wind out of each other's sails heading into the election and anything else?
This is all about toxic, rotting politics. This is about the Labor Party folding to the pressure of the big salmon corporations and the industry, who are being cheered on by the Liberal Party in a desperate plea to make the industry happy in Tasmania, at the cost of the environment, at the cost of community concern, at the cost of the survival of the Maugean skate, a creature that has existed in Tasmania's waterways for thousands of years. And this decision will push them to extinction. That's what the scientific advice says. So this push is all about toxic, rotten politics, nothing about good governance or doing what is right by the environment or the community. It ignores the science, it trashes the environment, and it silences community concern.
How do you think Senate did the second?
This move absolutely undermines the credibility of the Environment Minister. This move by the Prime Minister to prioritise this piece of environmental wreckage through the Parliament undermines his Environment Minister and throws her under the bus. Again, it's hard to see how anyone could trust or respect the authority of the Environment Minister when day after day after day the Prime Minister and her government dismisses the decisions she makes and undermines her ability to do her job.
Would Brent be targeting her electorate?
Well, we do have we obviously have Greens candidates standing in all seats, and we'll have a candidate standing in the seat of Sydney, of course. But this isn't just about Minister Plibersek's seat. This is a message now to every single Australian who cares about our wildlife, who cares about nature, who cares about our environment. Labor cannot be trusted. They'll do what the corporations want and what Peter Dutton wants, what Gina Rinehart wants. They can't be trusted to do the right thing on the environment. If you care about nature, if you care about saving our wildlife from extinction, there's only one option, and that's to vote Green. And in a minority government, we will fight tooth and nail for the survival of our forests, the survival of our wildlife, and we will hold Labor to account. I mean, Peter Dutton would be worse. And this move is straight out of Peter Dutton's playbook. Peter Dutton would be worse, but Labor can't be trusted to do the right thing on their own. They have to be held to account, and the Greens have got to be there to be the strong voice for nature. Anyone in any electorate across the country has the opportunity to send a message to Labor that this anti-environment, anti-science agenda will not be tolerated, and they can vote Green.
Just another topic. What do you make of the pledge to reduce the cap on PBS fares?
Look, the Greens are supportive of this move. Making medicines cheaper for everyone is a good move. But you know, I think we should just get this done. If there's support across the Parliament, we should get this done sooner rather than later. And we urge the government to also move on putting dental into Medicare so that people can afford to go to the dentist. It's a fundamental part of our healthcare system. So yes, let's make getting to the GP affordable. Let's make medicines cheaper, but let's also put dental into Medicare so that you can afford to get your teeth fixed and looked at when you need to. Australians are sick and tired of having to whip out the credit card in order to pay for the dentist rather than being able to use their Medicare card. I also like to say on the PBS that this attack on Australians and our health system by the big pharmaceutical companies in the United States and the Trump administration cannot be tolerated. We know how terrible the US health system is. Big Pharma have wrecked the US health system, and now they want to come to Australia and do it here. Not on. We need a unified response from all sides of politics on this, a Team Australia moment where we stare down the Trump administration and the big pharma corporations in the name of good health and the sovereignty of Australia. Too many politicians around this building have either been sidling up to Donald Trump or failing to stand up to him. Now is the moment to stand up and stare down this bully tactic from Big Pharma and Donald Trump.